Hey everyone, what's going on? If you've been stomping bugs with the Deep Space Vanguard, you'll be happy to hear there's a fresh update waiting for you. Starship Troopers Extermination version 1.107.002, also listed as Hotfix 1.7.1 on PC, just landed, and I've spent time combing through what changed, why it matters, and how it'll actually affect your matches in the short term. This isn't one of those big flashy content drops with a new mode or class. It's a surgical cleanup that makes the experience feel tighter and more fair, especially on the new Sparta map and against that flashy new Arachnid variant. If you're the kind of trooper who notices when the little things make or break a run, this one's for you. Let's start with the headline fixes because they touch real pain points people have hit since the last big content patch. First up, Scorpion bug fans and haters alike, that tail laser charge-up animation that sometimes stuttered has been smoothed out. Functionally, this looks small on paper, but in the moment it changes how you read the threat. Before, the visual hitch made it harder to judge when to break line of sight or pop a stim, and it occasionally got you zapped in situations that felt unfair. With the animation now behaving, the telegraphing is clearer, which means your reactions will line up with what the game is showing. When you're defending an objective and those red beams start tracing through smoke and debris, the consistency makes a difference. This is the kind of fix that doesn't just remove frustration, it helps you build better habits because the tell is trustworthy. There's also a navigation and damage recognition fix for bugs on the Sparta Mid Deck. If you've pushed through that area, you might have noticed arachnids getting weird around certain thresholds, either not pathing to you correctly or shrugging off damage cues in specific spots. That's the kind of glitch that creates those "how did that not count" moments, and it can snowball into wipes because a few enemies going unchallenged become a tide behind you. With the pathing and damage interactions cleaned up, it should restore the intended flow of pressure in those mid-deck fights. Expect fewer pockets where enemies feel off-limits or oddly invincible, and more of the satisfying push-pull you're supposed to get in this shipboard environment. Explosives enjoy a quality of life tweak too. The Nuclear Det Pack won't dish out full team damage to other players anymore. If you've ever tried to be a hero with heavy ordnance and instantly became the reason your squad was crawling, you know exactly why this matters. It's not removing danger, friendly fire still exists as a concept, but it reins in the most punishing edge case and encourages calculated explosive plays in close quarters. On Sparta, where corridors and choke points funnel both troopers and bugs into the same lanes, that adjustment encourages brave demolition without the immediate fear of nuking your own objective hold. It's the sort of change that makes aggressive plays more viable, which is the heart of this game when it's at its best. While we're on housekeeping, there's a UI correction that fixes the Scorpion bug's objective marker, compass marker, and target ping showing up as a tanker. That might sound like a small cosmetic tweak, but accurate labeling changes how squads prioritize. When a ping says tanker, people naturally switch to armor-breaking tools and certain angles. When it's correctly flagged as a Scorpion, you treat it like a ranged artillery threat, keep mobile cover in mind, and prioritize line-of-sight denial. Better labels drive better decisions, and better decisions mean more holds that don't crumble at the 5-second mark. If you're wondering why all of this centers on Sparta and Scorpions, it's because the previous big patch brought both into the spotlight. Sparta is the new map that puts you on the decks of a massive ship rather than purely planet-side. It's claustrophobic, vertical, and full of sightlines that make ranged arachnids scary in a different way than the usual open-ground swarms. With the Scorpion bug introduced as a headline enemy, you've got a creature that punishes static positioning with those laser attacks, forcing squads to rotate, clear angles, and communicate routes through the interior. It's a strong twist on the game's usual pacing, and it makes sense that the hotfix zooms in on issues that could distort that experience. Let me talk through how these changes actually alter a session so you can adapt right away. Picture a mid-game objective defense on Sparta, where you're holding a corridor with overlapping fire, sentries, and a designated explosives trooper. Before, that Scorpion laser might have snapped through its charge in a jittery way, and a couple of troopers would hesitate, not quite sure if that was the pre-fire state or a desync. Now, when you see the charge up, you peel off the lane decisively, pop a stim if you've overextended, and use the environment to block the shot. Because the read is consistent, your timing gets predictable in a good way. Meanwhile, with bugs pathing and taking damage properly across those mid-deck thresholds, the push against your barricades is steadier and more honest. If you fail, it's because they outmaneuvered you or you mismanaged cooldowns, not because the encounter logic got bumpy. For the explosives players, the Det Pack tweak means you can use it as intended in cramped spaces without turning every play into a moral dilemma. You still need spacing, you still need to call it out on voice, and you still need to watch for body-blocking teammates. What's changed is that a minor misjudgment won't torpedo the run. On longer missions, where mental stamina becomes a real factor, those fewer we just wiped ourselves moments keep morale up, which translates into crisper late-game cohesion. If you haven't set foot on Sparta yet, here are a few quick mindset shifts that pair nicely with the hotfix. Treat every corridor like a lane in a MOBA. You need vision, you need control points, and you need a plan for when the lane collapses. Sentries should be placed not just where enemies spawn from, but also where Scorpion sightlines are likely to line up. Think intersections and long straightaways. Keep a flex role in your squad who isn't chained to a single task. That player's job is to rotate to whichever angle the Scorpion is abusing, or to plug pathing gaps if a flank develops. With the UI fix properly identifying Scorpions, that flex role gets much better at triaging threats. And because the pathing on bugs is more reliable, your barricade placements and fallback positions will pay off the way they're designed to, instead of breaking down because an enemy decided to ignore the route you prepared. Now, about the version naming you might be seeing. On PC, the hotfix is identified as 1.7.1, which is how the Steam news post labels it. Consoles and some platforms represent the build differently, so you may see it as 1.107002 or even 1.007.x, depending on your storefront's conventions. Don't stress the numbers too much. What you want to verify are the patch notes and the timestamp. On Steam, you'll find the note labeled Hotfix Update 1.7.1 in the newsfeed, and it'll list the exact fixes we've been talking about. That's your confirmation that you're on the right build. Let's zoom out for a second and connect this with the momentum the game has had over the past few months. Earlier updates have been steadily shifting the feel of firefights, especially the overhauls to spawning logic and pacing systems that aim to reduce the swingy, unfair-feeling spikes of pressure. With the launch of Sparta and the debut of Scorpion, there was an intentional pivot toward tighter, more tactical rooms where reading telegraphs, managing sightlines, and coordinating pushes matter just as much as raw damage output. The hotfix keeps pushing in that direction by making the battlefield behavior more readable. It's like the devs handed everyone a slightly cleaner set of instruments, so squad leaders can call plays with confidence. For those of you recording content or making guides, and hey, you're in good company here, this is also a chance to refresh some best practices. For example, the Scorpion's ranged pressure makes smoke and hard cover more valuable, but you never want to block your own sentry arcs. Teach teammates to quickly feather around cover rather than camping in one spot, and practice a simple 3-count callout when the Scorpion starts charging. One teammate marks it, the next assigns an angle to cut line of sight, and the third confirms rotation. When the markers and pings show the right bug type, those callouts click faster. I'd also suggest dedicating one player to carry a secondary plan for breach moments, stims, or shields, so that if navigation errors aren't saving you anymore because they've been fixed, you still have the tools to handle a proper surge. Another quiet winner in this patch is player trust. Multiplayer lives and dies on whether people believe the game will behave the same way twice. When an animation tells you something and then the damage arrives on a different rhythm, it erodes that trust. When enemy AI decides it can't be bothered to step over an invisible line, it erodes that trust. Fixes like these sound small until you realize they're the backbone of why squads keep queuing for another run. Consistency is what lets you build strategies that feel repeatable and skillful rather than gimmicky.